Hey everyone, and welcome back to Don't Open That Door. I'm Justin, and I'm totally a member of the biker gang, but I was fishing that day.
I'm Nico, and yeah, fuck this. I'm just not going camping anymore.
I'm Dan, totally a member of this friend group, but definitely knows better than to go to Camp Crystal Lake.
Like, honestly.
In honor of the upcoming day, it's Friday the 13th coming up, so we are reviewing Friday the 13th, Part 3. That's right, we're just keeping on going, just like this franchise.
Woo!
So this one stars Dana Kimmel as Chris, Richard Booker as Jason, Larry Zerner as Shelley, Paul Kretka as Rick, and Tracy Savage as Debbie. So after a recap of the ending of the previous movie, Friday the 13th Part 2, the movie continues with Jason slaughtering a couple who own a store kind of in the Camp Crystal Lake area. We are then introduced to a new group of young adults for Jason to slaughter, including Chris, Shelley, Debbie, Andy, and a couple more other fun characters. After arriving at the cabin, which is, again, conveniently located near a site of Jason's rampages, Shelley has a run-in with the biker gang, but he actually returns to the cabin unharmed. Shock and awe, Nico.
So at this point, the biker gang tracks Shelley back to the cabin, but Jason's already on the scene, and he kills two of them and just boops and knocks out the third. So Chris and her boyfriend head off for some alone time, where Chris tells Rick that 2 years ago, she got attacked by a mysterious stranger. And part of why she came back to the camp was to get over that trauma. Meanwhile, Jason's on the loose and he massacres everyone at the cabin, just normal Jason things. And while killing Shelley, Jason takes Shelley's hockey goaltender mask for himself, and thus the iconic Jason look was born.
Well, folks, sorry to report, but there's actually not too much happening in this movie, so believe it or not, Dan, wrap this one up for us.
Really not much going on.
Yeah.
So now Rick and Chris get back to the camp, but of course, everyone is dead. To make matters worse, Jason attacks Rick, squishing his skull and popping his eyeball out. Kind of cool. Chris fights back against Jason, hanging him, stabbing him, and then finally chopping into his head with an axe. Jason slumps to the floor, defeated, and Chris rolls out onto Crystal Lake until the cops arrive in the morning. In a scene very reminiscent of the first movie. The end.
Well, you're right, and we will talk about that. But before we get into that, let's talk about the technicals, shall we? So, Nico, how does this movie look?
I really like the way this movie looks. It's definitely something that is a product of its time, rather, and it doesn't have the most fidelity to it in terms of its visual quality, but I do really like that, for one thing, they play with different what looks like camera lenses. There's a whole lot of film grain throughout, and I appreciated that, but there were also times where it looked like there was distinctly different like lenses being used to give you different kinds of shots, and there was, like artifacts of the scene, like if there was a little bit of a little blood spatter, maybe like a little bit would pop up onto the lens or some dirt or something, and I just thought that added to the sort of like a grittier atmosphere, so I liked it.
I was going to say, I agree with you there. There's a scene in particular where I think they're by the water and then someone splashes in the water and some of it splashes onto the camera lens.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. And another thing I noticed as well was I think there was like one scene where I thought they just needed to wipe the lens. Like I was like, bro, what's going on here at the bottom?
Yeah, there
of
were a
this
few of
lens?
those.
So I was kind of confused about that. But otherwise, I liked it. I also thought that this one kind of eschewed some of the earlier kind of film work they did, where before, particularly from the killer's point of view, whether it was Jason or his mother, they would kind of have that whole first person POV thing they were doing. And they didn't do it in this one. They kind of didn't continue with the iconic cinematography in that regard, but they definitely, kept up their kills. They might have repeated one or two from a previous movie. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but I thought just the general quality of the kills and the blood, I thought it was adequate. I liked it. It wasn't anything to write home about necessarily a lot of the time, but I thought it did what it had to do. Dan, how'd this movie look to you?
I thought it looked all right. I mean, you guys kind of already said a lot of it. Now, this movie, we did not watch it this way, but it was filmed and to be viewed originally. It was in 3D.
Right.
So you can, even though we didn't watch it in 3D, you can clearly tell there are certain scenes that made for, hey, look, 3D. But I mean, even in 2D, they look kind of cool. And I thought they still gave you that 3D like effect almost. just partially because of like the bokeh on a lot of the shots, and like,
Yeah.
oh, there's like a axe sticking out of somebody, so the front of the axe is out of focus, but the head and everything is in focus or whatever. And even though we watched it in 2D, it kind of gave the illusion of more
Yeah.
3D a little bit. But I thought it looked pretty good.
Well, I guess we already touched on it, so let's go ahead and go all the way here. Do we think that's cheesy or do we think that's cool? The 3D effect or the pseudo 3D effect that you can get even if you watch this movie without 3D glasses or anything like that. How do we feel about that? Is it something that you find to be cool? Does it maybe differentiate it from other, entries in the series? From my personal point of view, when Rick's eyeball came flying out, I was like, oh shit. Like that was kind of cool. I didn't see that one coming, but I liked it personally. It's maybe like slightly cheesy, and I might have had a problem with it in a more serious film, but given the nature of this movie, I thought it was fine. Thoughts, Nico?
Yeah, I think it was mostly okay. The only really egregious offender was just the fucking opening credits, man. Like,
Oh, yeah.
that was like a fucking product demo of clip art in the 90s. That's pretty much what that fucking was.
That's fair. But getting back on track here, Dan, sound-wise, how'd you like this one?
I mean, I thought it sounded fine. I mean, we have the classic kind of Jason theme there.
Which I recently learned that is a recording of Pamela Voorhees saying, like, kill her.
Really?
Kill. Her. That's her saying kill her.
Huh. I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Never
Interesting.
knew that until very recently. But, yeah.
Okay. All right. Other than that, I mean, I don't have too much to speak about on it. I mean, it sounded good. The film score was good. It was just overall good.
All right. Now, from my point of view, I have really nothing to add there, Dan, but I will say this. I guess the VHS that I watched this on, it wasn't rewound when I started it.
Yeah.
And
Sadako
okay.
didn't get to you.
It started on the end credits, and my dumbass thought this was like the intro to the movie. So I sat there and watched like a solid 2 minutes of end credits before I was
Bruh.
like, oh shit.
Wow.
You know what? I was like, this is a very long intro. They really wanted everyone to be known. But nah, I say that to say the end theme is bumping. Like, that's a
Yeah.
really cool theme they play at the end there. It also has nothing to do with the movie, but it's a really cool theme. I like it a lot. Points for that. But otherwise, I agree with what Dan has to say. And Nico, I know you're kind of sliding in here, but anything else?
Yeah, I just want to echo something that I said last time about part 2. Part 2 had this really grandiose arrangement of orchestra and some horn sections just like throughout, and they continue that trend in this one. And I really like what they did with this. It's continuing the trend of having this really powerful symphonic backing, and it really adds to the sort of just like the feel of it all. And they also did some interesting things with the music production. Like, there were a bunch of times where there was some pretty intense phasing going on to make you feel off kilter. So I like what they did with the sound, and I hope they keep the trend up in the next few movies.
Well, we'll see when they come out for sure. But I want to talk real quick now. And you said, you referenced the previous movie. Well, it's not just you. This movie does a lot of referencing to the previous movie. And Dan, we start off with actually, once again, a flashback to, the previous movie. I mean, is this getting tired at this point? Because they're not just like small flashbacks. They're a couple of minutes at least. And I mean, how do we feel about that? How do you feel about that?
I feel like it was not really all that warranted for this movie. Like, I feel like I could maybe understand that if it was like a direct sequel. And I mean, I guess the events do happen like pretty much right after, but
it's
you don't.
the next day.
Yeah, but you really don't have to know anything about the previous movie.
And I didn't
like-
know that while I was
Yeah.
watching it. Like, I thought it was a little bit later. I'm not going to lie and stuff. Like, maybe I'm just not good at watching movies or something. but,
No,
like,
I mean, to be honest, the only real giveaway that it is the next day is the couple are watching a news report,
Mm-hmm.
and the news report is of
At
the
the gas
girl from
station,
the
right?
previous movie. Yeah. Gas
Yeah.
station, grocery, whatever it was.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like, they were watching that news report, and that was supposed to tell you that this was like the next day or like the next night or something like that.
Right.
And then
I
when
just-
they're murdered. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't think that you even really needed all that. I mean,
No, you didn't.
It really wouldn't matter if it was the next day or 5 years later. Like it really doesn't make any difference.
Yeah.
So having that, I mean, I feel like even just having a recap of just that lady watching TV and that quick little 10-second news
That
flash
would have
of
been
what
fine.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, cool. Oh yeah, shit, that happened. All right, moving on. Now I get it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, literally, if they'd said and they'd put a little bit more emphasis on it instead of like this dude playing with rabbits and taking a shit, like if they had literally just been like, yo, okay, he didn't play with rabbits like while taking a shit. I realize it sounds like that now, but he did in that order. Anyways, look, the point being is this. If they just had the newscast and been like, this morning, this young girl was found at Camp Crystal Lake or something like that would have immediately let the viewer know, hey, this is like the next day. Like it would have been more obvious. They should have, in my opinion, focused more on that. So I agree with you, Dan. I honestly think a major thing as well, the characters aren't recurring, so the flashback is unnecessary.
No,
Right, exactly.
they're not.
So maybe if they
I don't
were,
think we get
okay.
any recurring characters, Jason and Pamela accepted until the fourth one. Something like that.
Mayhaps.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that, but
Well,
mayhaps.
I
mayhaps.
was wondering if they were gonna do like because in the start of the second one, didn't we get a flashback and then Jason goes to murk the girl?
Yes, Alice, I think her name was. And yeah.
Yes.
Like I thought that was gonna happen again. Like
Was it Alice
here's a
or was it Ginny?
flashback. Ginny.
Yeah.
Ginny.
Ah, was Alice from the second movie then?
Alice is from the first one.
She's from Wonder
Ah.
Man.
Okay.
Anyway,
True enough. All accounts.
but
Yeah.
anyways, I thought that we were gonna have him like track her down and kill her or some shit. I don't know.
Well, you'd be forgiven for that
He
because,
just fucking hates campers, dude.
Yeah.
well, first off, before we get too ahead of ourselves, Nico, so where are you on the fence here? Is it unnecessary, the flashback, or do you have more fond feelings than maybe me and Dan?
I think it's largely unnecessary, but I'm a little bit more lenient with it. I think it's a little bit more acceptable. Now that I've seen more horror movies than when we first started this podcast years ago, and I'd only seen the first one, like I think Friday the 13th, at least the first few movies, are really well and truly just kind of like murder of the week pulpy just stories.
Yeah.
Like they don't have very much substance to them, and that's fine. So like if this was something where it was like last time on Indiana Jones and the Temple of Fuck, we went to there's this like whole weird recap of something that didn't really like add any kind of details, like yeah, that'd be different. But I don't think this is necessarily any kind of long spanning narrative that needs one. So while I recognize that it's kind of silly to even have it, the recap, like, oh, this time it doesn't have the dead mom's head and she's gonna boop him with a knife, and just like, it's fine. They could go either way with it. It's like, this isn't a big brain movie, dude.
No. And on top of that, too, you're right. It's not a big brain movie because this really does, like, really and truly does take a lot of beats from the previous one. I mean, walk with me on this path here, Dan. We've got a very similar kill in this one. I think it's Debbie, who dies a death very similar to Kevin Bacon in the first one.
Mhm.
We also have, again, from the second movie, two main characters who like leave for a little bit. In the second movie, they went to a bar. In this one, they just went out in the woods by themselves. And then they got back and everyone's dead. So that happens again. I mean, these movies, it just kind of seems like they have a little convoluted first 30 minutes or so, 45 minutes to just get everyone there. And then once they're all there, Jason just kills them all. I mean,
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like they should have spent less time paying homage to the previous movies and just created a new set of characters, put them in a camp and killed them. Like, like to Nico's point, like these movies don't have a lot of substance. So just embrace that and just make a even dumber movie of just people killing, like don't even try to make a whole cohesive story about it. And this girl's backstory, which I'm sure I'll rant about later, but like just fucking put people in a camp and kill them. That's all I need. That's
fair. And Nico, real quick, I mean, do you think this one had an over-reliance as well? Is this kind of the theme here? Do we think it does have an over-reliance similar to on the flashback?
Over-reliance on what?
On just kind of like taking ideas and beats from the previous two movies.
I mean, no.
Oh.
Insofar as this is a slasher, and in slasher, villains go stab. So like I don't know that they necessarily have to reinvent the wheel here.
No, they definitely don't. But I feel like part of the fun of a slasher is how are they going stab stab?
True.
So, like,
and they do a lot more stab in this one than the first two.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, to me, like in the first one, my favorite stab is when Kevin Bacon gets killed. Like, that was a cool scene. And in this movie, I watched it again and I was like, wow, that would have been really cool if I hadn't seen it already. You know,
Yeah,
it's like there's so many ways to kill people. Just come up with a new one.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about it already. So what is your favorite kill from this one, Dan? If it's not, is it the Kevin Bacon Redux stab, or is there a new one?
No, I think there's a new one. It would be the harpoon gun to the face.
Oh, harpoon gun to the eye?
Through the eye, yeah.
Yo, that was brutal as fuck.
Set the scene, Dan. Set the scene.
So, that was Vera, I think, right?
Yes, it was Vera.
She was, like, trying to run away. Or no. She was trying to, like, fish out this dude's wallet, Shelly's wallet, from the water. And Jason comes up, she thinks he's Shelly, and he's got a harpoon gun.
Mask.
Yeah. Because, Jason's iconic hockey mask was actually Shelly's mask. So he had killed Shelly and taken his mask. So he has a harpoon gun and he just like aims it at her and she looks at him and then he shoots. And I would have loved to have seen that in 3D because I think that would have been kind of cool.
That would have been a sweet shot.
That would have been sick.
Yeah.
How about you, Nico? What's your favorite stab in this one?
My favorite stab is the stab where Shelly finally dies. I fucking hated Shelly, and as soon as he was gone, it just made everything better.
Yeah, he kind of sucked too.
He was such a fuck. I could not stand that asshole.
I don't think he was an asshole. But
Bruh.
Hey, listen, now's not the time, sir. Now's not the time. But I think that, well, first off, do we even see Shelly's death for real? He gets kind of off screen, doesn't he?
Yeah, and I will say that's one thing I wish they did show more fully.
You just wanted the satisfaction.
Who was it that died before him? Was it Vera? Or was it someone else?
Well, okay, so technically he dies before Vera, but we see Vera die before he shows up with his throat cut.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it would have been more satisfying if there was an actual death scene there. But
I thought that was really odd that there wasn't a death scene for him because everyone else had a death scene.
Maybe because he had his fake me out death in the closet earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I guess maybe. My favorite one is, I'm torn in two here and I don't know which one to pick. I'm going to go with, so one of the characters, I think it's Andy. Like, he loves to do handstands and shit. And so he's with his, like, pregnant, I don't know, girlfriend, wife, partner, whatever they got going on. And she's in the shower and she's like, oh yeah, grab me a drink or something. He's like, okay. And then he like handstands and walks down the hall. And then Jason just fucking walks up and like chops him in half as he's like handstanding down the hall. I'm like, dude, what a dumbass you are. Yeah. I'm sorry. That was just kind of funny to me.
That was really funny. I'm not going to front.
Well, Dan mentioned it earlier and I kind of feel like now is the time to talk about it. Chris has a backstory. Dan, why don't you enlighten us on Chris's backstory here and why you got a problem with it and just generally some plot stuff.
So Chris used to live in this town or this town and little house or I don't know, place here.
Good start.
And yeah, that's right. I try. And something happened throughout the whole movie. They kind of reference that something happened and she left. And then this is her first time coming back or whatever. And she's like confronting her demons or some shit. So we find out eventually, she tells us that she got into an argument one night with her parents and like ran outside late at night. And she's like trying to make them scared by being out late at night. And then this grotesque man comes up and starts attacking her. And, you know, we kind of see a flashback and it's Jason like attacking her. And then she passes out. And then next thing she knows, she's awake in her parents' house and safe and sound. And nobody ever talks about it and her parents don't talk about it and nobody knows what happened. And there's a lot of problems with that. First, apparently, initially, it was supposed to be implied that he sexually assaulted her. And reason being is he dies at the end. And I guess the film studio or writers wanted it to seem like if he was a rapist, then people would actually enjoy seeing him die and feel vindicated in that. They kind of scrapped a lot of that. And I think that's a good idea because that's not something that he would do. It just doesn't make any sense the way that they do it now. Like, why would he attack her and then just not? Like, how did she live? Like, he just kills people just for the fun of it. So, like, I don't know, that doesn't make sense. And then kind of going back to the whole like trying to tie it into previous movies and stuff. I was kind of in this weird place where I was trying to figure out, okay, is it important if I figure out like what time frame, what time period did this happen after the second movie, or like, well, I guess it didn't, but I don't know. Like, I was trying to piece together the time frame for it. I don't know. It was really weird and doesn't make sense. And they probably shouldn't have just had that in there at all. Again, I would
No.
rather it just been random group of people there.
Yeah, to be completely honest with you, well, I'm gonna say my thought. Nico, what do you feel about that whole scenario?
I don't really have too many thoughts on it, so go ahead.
I would have just honestly, like, it feels like they didn't highlight everything and delete it when they got rid of the sexual assault storyline.
Yeah.
Like,
kinda.
I would have just, like, literally the whole backstory about Jason makes absolutely no fucking sense. Like, literally none. Also, in terms of the time frame, she said 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And this takes place 2 days after the second movie, which takes place 5 years after the first movie. So her attack from Jason took place 3 years after the first movie.
Okay.
2 years before the second.
Got it.
So I say all that to say it's fucking pointless though. Like, they really, honestly, and like, it was kind of weird how like she seemed like really traumatized about the whole thing. And then it was just kind of like, what the fuck happened? And then like, you got the feeling it was related to Jason, but then you were like, I don't know. Cause like Jason kills people and how would you forget about Jason? And it's just kind of like, I don't know, that whole thing. You know what? Honestly, like, I get it. Somebody came up with the idea, but I would have just fucking highlighted and deleted the whole shit. Like, start to finish, I would have just highlighted and deleted the whole fucking idea and just not even fucking bothered. Because that is not what I think these movies are about at all. I think they're about slashers and just a bunch of people dying in random ways.
To be clear,
fucking
I
honest.
want to say really quickly, I don't think anyone on this podcast is saying like, oh yeah, trauma's not important, but like the scene that they're establishing by, you know, talking about this trauma was just kind of all over the place, and the narrative they sort of like weave is really disjointed, so it's not very well executed is the thing here.
Right.
Yeah.
Unlike Jason's murder victims.
Whoa. So, well, speaking of Jason, Nico, I wanted to talk to you about, we see his face in this one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not really Purdy, but we see his face in this one. He also catches a massive ass whooping. How do you feel about that? What does that do for Jason in terms of the scare factor?
I mean, I think it makes him a little bit more scary now that we can see his face and he's not just like some sort of fucking pretty boy. And like we knew that already from the second movie where he oh buddy. Let's just say he had some work done between 2 and 3. But yeah, like I think the whole deal with Jason is like, yeah, now he's got his mask and stuff, but it's still a scary thing because like Jason could just be some fucking dude. And that's the scary thing.
See, I have a slightly different opinion on that because I kind of feel like Jason like takes these hits and then just like keeps going. And there's like, the film walks this weird line if there being like a supernatural element or not to Jason. Cause like, is Jason just a dude? I don't know. But like, he appears to be supernaturally strong. Like, he literally got hung for like a solid amount of time.
Yeah.
And they like hung him. Like, his neck would have been broken.
Yeah.
But then like he got stabbed in the thigh and he's over here like selling the thigh injury. I'm like, okay. And then he gets like chopped in the head with an axe. And I'm just over here like, how is this dude alive? Like, you can't be. You can't treat these wounds on your own, Jason. Like, you would need to go to a hospital or something. So, I don't know. I never like when the big bad or monsters get injured in the way that he did. Because it's one thing to like, you know, attack a monster. I mean, Michael Myers gets attacked all the time.
I was just going to pull up and say the Michael Myers Undertaker scene when he just like sits up.
Yeah. But like Michael Myers gets hit and like goes down, but then he gets up like nothing happened to him.
Yeah.
Versus Jason over here like limping as he was running through the woods and everything else like that. And I'm just like, I don't know about that, boss. I don't know about that. Dan, you have any thoughts on that?
I feel like it humanizes him a little bit.
It does.
But then, like you said, it also like puts him in a weird place of like, well, that's a little bit above human. Like he has a shitload of HP or something.
Yeah.
He
But
does. He really does.
yeah, but I kind of don't like seeing his face. Like I don't feel like too strongly about it, but I think I would rather them have not seen his face. Like I think you even see it in the flashback at the very beginning. The two characters from the previous movie see his face and they're like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
But like we as the audience don't see his face, and I like that. It leaves more up to the imagination. And then when you do see his face, it's just kind of like, oh, damn, okay. Humanizes him a little bit, but I kind of liked him being sort of a cold monster. Again, I don't feel too strongly about it, but I would rather have not seen it.
I agree with what you say. Only one last point, and ironically, this is actually in favor of the movie showing his face, even though I just said I don't like it. But because this was meant to be the last, I could kind of sort of understand them showing his
true.
face for the last
That is
movie.
true.
Yeah.
That's a
I
good
could kind
point.
of sort of see that. And he also, again, this is just from the, I haven't watched like all of the Friday the 13th movies, but he pretty much keeps his mask on for like the vast majority of movies. So it's time now for the legendary What Would You Do section. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to divide ourselves here a little bit. So Dan, you're, you know, at the, I guess, gas station, general store, whatever it is, and a biker gang runs up on you. You know, like, I guess you toss Vera your wallet, she drops it, and then a biker gang runs up on you guys. Would you do what Shelley did in that situation, or was there anything you'd do different?
You mean actually in the store or when he runs over their bike?
All together.
Altogether? I would probably run into their bikes too. I would do that shit. Yeah, because like I was proud of him. That was the one moment I was proud, right?
Yeah.
So like they're like running away and like the biker dude like busted their windshield and shit. And then Shelly sees that their bikes are like just chilling. So he like turns around and like runs into their bikes. I would have done that shit. Hell yeah. In the store, I probably wouldn't have done anything to them in the store because they would probably beat the shit out of me.
That's true. That's true.
But I don't think I would have been as much of a punk as Shelly was.
No.
But I probably would have been more like Vera, doing what they say and not happy about it, but like, fuck it, fine.
No, that's fair. That's fair. That's fair. Now, Nico, we're going to go ahead and switch over to you here. So let's say, you know, you're kind of in the situation where Jason's on the attack, and I'm going to put you in the shoes of Ali, the biker member who got knocked out.
Okay.
So Ali wakes back up and he attacks Jason. Would you also have attacked Jason, but maybe in a different way, or would you have just booked it the fuck out of there?
I mean, if I saw that I could get like a fucking sneak attack on him, I would probably like do that. But if I was in a situation where like I suddenly woke up in a barn and there was a whole bunch of murder going on, my first thought would probably be to get the fuck out of Dodge.
This is fair. This is very fair. This is very fair. And for myself, well, first and foremost, I'm just going to go ahead and say this right now. Like, I would never find myself in a situation where, yeah, I get it. Like, I might, you know, in like Chris or Rick's shoes, like I might go out for some alone time or something like that, have a conversation out in the woods or something. But yo, if I get back and I don't hear any sounds, and this is like a camp full of young people, and now they're just like dead quiet, I'm gonna be
Emphasis
like, yo,
on dead.
I'm gonna be like, they got murked. They definitely got murked. I'm sorry, but they did. Like, I don't know. That just didn't make any sense. And to be honest, if I was Chris or Rick, I would have just fucking ran the fuck away. But also if I was Chris, like Chris stabs Jason and he goes down, I'd have kept stabbing him.
Hell yeah.
Like,
yep.
I would have just killed him. Like, sincerely, I feel like these people don't have like enough aggression. Like, if this dude is a mass murderer, serial killer, psychopath that's killed all your friends, I would have killed the shit out of him. No questions asked.
Yeah. I was torn because there's a point when she hits him with a shovel and knocks him out. And then that's when she like straps him up with the noose and then like dumps him off hangs him.
Yeah.
Kudos to her, but I would have just kept hitting him, bro.
Yeah.
You don't got to go through all that trouble. Just keep hitting him.
Hauling his ass up the stairs and shit. Yeah, no.
Yeah. And like you got to like get close to him to like tie the noose around him. Nah, fuck that. Just stand at a distance and wallop him with the shovel a couple more times.
Yeah. Range attacks, bro. Range attacks.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's, again, audience, there wasn't really a lot to dissect in this movie without us also crossing over what we talked about in the first two What Would You Do's.
Yeah.
But I want now to finally, let's bring it all in, shall we, for a final consensus on Friday the 13th, Part 3. Now, time for the, again, weekly guess where Nico destroys Dan. Where do you guys think this one ranks on Rotten Tomatoes? I believe in you, Dan. I believe in you.
Oh, no. I'm going to say 68.
Nico?
I'm going to say a 75 on this one.
Fuck
Ladies
you.
and gentlemen, we have a new challenger.
Oh.
Or sorry, we have a new champion. Dan, you've got it.
Yes.
Oh, shit.
Do you know where critics put this movie on Rotten Tomatoes?
Where?
7%.
What?
I thought you say like, I don't know, 45.
This movie's got a 7. Like a 7% from critics on
Holy
Rotten Tomatoes.
shit.
Wow.
What? It
The
wasn't
audience-
that bad.
The audience was a bit more generous with 42%.
Holy
Wow.
shit, man.
All right.
So that's where we're at. So why don't we go ahead, just give me your general thoughts on the movie and then your final score. Who wants to lead here?
I'll start off. I think this movie was a lot of fun. I think it was more engaging than the first one. And I think just because the fact that Jason finally gets his mask, it's a little bit more iconic.
Okay.
I enjoyed this one. I definitely had some problems with it, but now that I've seen more of these, it's hard for me to be too heady and highfalutin on this. This is just something that I think is a silly, dumb, good time. I'm gonna give this 70.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
I guess I'll go next. So I think for me, it's kind of weird. I have a very weird take on this one. This one, to me, it really did take a lot of inspiration from the second one in particular.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I feel like it's better than the second one. In actuality, and follow me down this path here, if they never made the second one and literally said, instead of going to a camp, because again, why would you go back to Camp Crystal Lake 5 years after everyone got massacred?
Yeah.
Instead, they were staying at a cabin in the area, and it's like an area that two of the characters were actually from and, spent time in, I guess, growing up at least. So it's not like, hey, we went to summer camp to get killed. It's like, hey, I went back home and this kind of happened to me. This is like a better second movie than the second movie. And it even makes more sense because if we want to include the storyline where she's attacked by Jason, technically that happened after the first movie. So there would have at least been some kind of tie-in for her to be like, hey, I think there's a maniac out here or something like that. And that could have been the introduction to Jason. And except maybe instead of him attacking her, maybe she, I don't know, saw something. Like maybe she saw him one night in the woods or she saw his house or something like that when she ran away from her parents. I don't know. These things would have made more sense personally.
Mm.
So that's kind of like the positive. I also like the kills. I did like the kills. Not really the ones that they ripped off, but the other ones I really liked. The eyeball exploding was kind of cool, right? And not the eyeball exploding, but Rick getting his skull caved in and squashed, and then his eyeball exploding out.
Yeah.
That one, the harpoon one Dan talked about was kind of cool as well. So I like those overall. The downsides for me on this one are, it is totally brain dead. It is literally I don't know. I feel like it's
The
like I
opposite of
had
prestige horror in every way.
It is. I grant you that it is. But there's one place where I think it's similar to prestige horror.
No shit.
Yeah. I don't think it's very fun. Because
Aww.
yeah. Aw. But no, I don't think it's very fun because I just feel like I was bored a lot of the time. Like when someone died, I was like, oh shit, they got killed. Yeah. But I was bored a lot of the time with this one, to be honest with you. I was like, listen, to Dan's point earlier, I like creativity in my kills. So I just felt like this one lacked creativity in that regard. And I do know that in future movies, we see better kills and more creativity. And I think those are more enjoyable movies. I'm not trying to compare the two. I'm just saying that's what happens. But for me, it's just really a meh. I can't grant it much higher than the audience. It's a 45 for me.
Damn.
Yeah, when I Earlier today when I was thinking about it, I was with Nico on the 70, but I don't know, the more I think about it, the less I like it. So
Understandable.
I do agree with Nico. I thought it was a fair amount of dumb fun. My main problem is I wanted it to be dumber fun.
Mm.
Like I wanted less thinking involved because I feel like they tried to do things and tried to make things, oh, we're gonna reference the first movies a lot, or oh, we're
Yeah.
gonna try to do this with the characters, or even the 3D stuff. Like some of the 3D or the kills would have been cool in 3D, but there's also just some really like out there scenes where like, oh, we're juggling apples or whatever, and we're gonna make this look in 3D because hey, we have 3D shit. And
Yeah.
it felt to me like, oh, this is our gimmick. Let's just do some 3D shit. And I kind of just wish it was just random teens in a camp getting murked. And how can we have the most fun with getting them killed? You know? So I wish it was a little dumber. I'm with Justin on this 45.
I will
Damn.
say, I will say though, that at least from my perspective, I feel like the later movies embrace more of like the campiness and like the, well, let's just go all out and like kill them in all these different ways. So while, this one, parts 3 and 2, we rated kind of low, I'm sure that in the future ones, the score will go up the dumber they get. Because realistically, at a certain point, like either this is like a thinking kind of movie or this is a dumb fun kind of movie. And I guess Dan said it better than me. It wasn't quite stupid enough. So that's where we're at. If that's the case, let's just throw it all on the table, shall we? Is this one going to get a recommend from us?
I recommend it.
Yeah, I don't.
I do not recommend it.
Okay. There we go.
There's 9 other Jason movies or more that you could watch.
So this one's going to get a pass from us. But if you have feelings about this movie or any other movie, hit us up on social media. We're on Twitter and Instagram at DOTD Horror. We're also on Facebook. Don't open that door. Plus, you can catch every episode we've ever done on our website. That's dotdhorror.com. But till then, take care of yourselves. Keep yourself safe.
And don't fucking go to Crystal Lake. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that. And as always, dear listener, don't open that door. Bye.